When Michael's girlfriend broke up with him, he started getting into trouble at work. He would get into fights with his boss and get frustrated and angry in meetings. He came to therapy after his boss said, "You better figure this out or you're not going to have a job here anymore." Becca has an eating problem. When things get stressful at school, all she can think to do is eat, eat, eat. What do both of these people have in common? Their brain is getting in the way of their life. With both Michael and Becca, their deeper brains are interfering with their ability to regulate their life because their brain is sensing a survival threat. This triggers emotions, instincts, and reflexes that they aren't even conscious of. For us to understand our emotions, we need to have a little bit better understanding of how our brain works. So briefly, there are 3 levels to our brain. The executive state, which is the prefrontal lobes and the cortex. The emotional state, which is the limbic system. And the brainstem, which is the survival state of our brains. Now, the deepest and oldest part of our brain is the reptilian brain, or the brainstem. This part of our brain evolved millions and millions of years ago and is the most basic level of our brain's functioning. Its job is to make sure that we stay alive. It manages survival, reflexes, eating, bodily regulation, things like your heart rate and your breathing, just the very bare bones of keeping us alive. When Becca felt stressed at school, the deep part of her brain sensed a survival threat like a famine and cranked up the drive to eat, as if to store up food resources for later. Now, Becca knew this wasn't going to be helpful in her executive part of her brain, but that wasn't able to stop the reaction in her brainstem. This instinct has helped humans survive for thousands of years, but it isn't very helpful in Becca's specific situation. The limbic system is also called the mammal brain because it's able to think of survival in terms of a group, and it's also a very old part of our brain. So think of a wolf pack hunting together to survive, or a herd of antelope sticking together to fight the wolf pack off. For thousands of years, humans have depended on small groups of people, maybe a village of 50 to 100 people, for their survival. Rejection meant death. This part of our brain manages love, attachment, jealousy, most of the emotions that we feel occur in our limbic brain, and it has a lot to do with our social interactions. So when Michael's girlfriend broke up with him, it triggered this fear of rejection or being kicked out of the village that was necessary for survival. And that elicited the fight, flight, freeze response, this anger that he was feeling that was coming out at work. The outermost part of our brains and the newest, youngest part of our brains is the prefrontal cortex. This is only in humans, and it has the ability to think about the future and use words, create imaginary scenarios. This is the part that we often think of as our mind. It holds conscious thoughts. It has the ability to plan for the future and reason things out. It holds memories and has the ability to think out problems on a complex level. This is the part of our brain that we use when we make intentional choices about the direction we want our life to go. It holds our identity and our life purpose. When Becca knew that it wasn't good for her to be eating so much, that was her executive brain thinking about the future. And when Michael thought, I should get some therapy to help me with these problems, he was using this reasoning power of the human brain. Now, it's important for us to understand these different parts of our brain because when our brain senses a threat, it turns off the upper levels of the functioning in our mind and defaults to the lower levels. So it's going to default to survival first and then attachment and relationships and not being rejected before it's able to really think about, how do I solve this complex problem in my life? So if we want our brains to function well and we want to be able to solve these complex problems, we really need to make sure that the message of safety is being sent to our reptilian brain and that the message of connection and closeness and social interaction is fulfilling the needs of our mammal brain. And then we're able to use the executive part of our brain, which functions to solve problems and make complex decisions. The fact that our brain regresses to these deeper levels when it feels threatened is really functional when it comes to physical threats, but it's not very helpful when it comes to things that we need to think through and plan out. So if we get stuck in our limbic brain, we're constantly making decisions based on emotions or instincts or stress or reactions. We're very reactive and impulsive in our choices. And in order to make conscious and thought-through choices, we need to be spending more time in our executive brain, in our prefrontal cortex. So to do that, we need to feel safe in our bodies and in our minds. We need to notice our reaction to threats. So take a minute, think about when was the last time you felt threatened, and what was your habitual response to that. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful, and take care.